All right, so I'm sitting here in Bali. For the last 4 months, I've been living here. My seven-figure business is going down due to the 12-month business divorce on top of recession that was happening in the country. Um, and yeah, I don't know what my next stage of life is. Feel like I'm going through a transition. Definitely feels like I'm going through a transition, and I'm excited. I'm anxious, and I'm nervous because I don't know what will be on the other side of this transition, because I feel like this journey of 10 years that I built my business is coming to an end. So, how did I get here? Let's rewind it back and look at my journey so far, potentially what led to this moment. I'll be adjusting my hair every now and then because it's windy. It's nice and windy today. So, anyways, so I'm 34 years old, originally from Russia, Vladivostok, for those that know. It's a cool little port city in Russia. And I was there, I grew up there until the age of 15. And then we moved to New Zealand and Auckland specifically. That's where I went to school and a university where I got my degree in accounting and finance, and had a 2 year corporate job there. 2.5 actually, almost got my chartered accountancy. So for those that know, it's like this qualification for accountants, and then you put it next to a name that you're a CA or CPA, depending where you are. And yeah, 6 months before getting that, I quit. I quit because I feel like I chose this degree in accounting because I didn't know what I want to do. I'm driven by money, and my parents were like, "Go do this," because my mom is an accountant. She done well for herself. She has a business. She had a business in Russia, and that allowed us to move to Australia. I mean New Zealand, and get the residency, get citizenship, all these nice and safe things that your parents want for you, right? Um, and I guess we can talk about the dynamic a bit about trusting yourself, what you want to do, and not being afraid of making a mistake. And that power was sort of taken away from me when I was younger because I grew up in a very unstable environment, to put it in a nicer way. And it was very scary for me to trust myself to make mistakes, because on the other side of that came punishment, physical and emotional punishment. Um, and you know, it wasn't always easy to feel safe at home. So that's been going on in the background, on top of many other good things as well that my parents have provided, with education, with speaking perfect English, and that these opportunities to travel. Um, so I'm grateful for those too. Uh, and so, but I didn't realize that until my later years in my 30s, when I started doing therapy about everything that's happened to me in the background and how it impacts my life, or has impacted my life, and what I have to do uh, to sort of resolve that, right? And that was a journey of its own, which we'll talk about too. And so I graduated university. I'm like, I get this job in this BDO, which is number five accounting auditing firm. I go into auditing, and I was like, yeah, on paper everything's amazing. I do my work, I do it well, but throughout uni and throughout job, I would do it, but I also fall asleep during the day. It was actually kind of hilarious. Not to say I was a bad student or bad employee. I guess it's just its level of engagement as to what I was doing. I wasn't into it. Um, and that should have been a clear sign, to be honest, to not continue with my major. But even before that, camera almost fell down. But even before that, the sign was the fact that I failed my accounting paper in the first year. So that should have been a clear sign. Anyways, so I get this job. I do it for 2 years, and I progress in it. and everyone's doing overtime, and I managed to do my job and always finish on time, and sort of it kind of comes easy, but s- something doesn't feel right, you know. It just doesn't. I'm like doing this job, it's some sort of level of prestige, but I wasn't satisfied, and I wasn't satisfied, and I remember like looking around and people that are a few years ahead of me, and many years ahead of me, the partners, the managers, and I was like, okay, so this is what my life looks like in the next 10 to 20 years. Yeah, I might move firms, but uh, it's pretty well defined. You doing this financial thing in an office. That's it. Like, and it didn't sound or feel too inspiring to me in that moment. And I was like, this is not what I want to do when I will be in my 30s or 40s. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but at the time, I always had this passion and eager for computers and tinkering with them. Photoshop, playing was crazy into computer games. World of Warcraft, where me and my team was like a top 1%. Spent a lot of hours, a lot playing that. I was a nerd, yeah. Um, and that kind of also happened because I moved to New Zealand. And back in Russia, I was super into sports, and like I was in a junior Russian team for swimming, and I wanted to be an Olympian. But having like being isolated with no friends, going from this connected, nice, I guess popular guy in my school in Russia to like starting from scratch with no English or very little English and no community, nothing to find myself. I got into gaming a lot. Some of you may relate to that as an escape, but also as a sense of community, of purpose. And it did a lot of things for me. So I'm very competitive as well. So satisfied that need too. But on the upside as well, it helped me improve my English a lot to the point where, well, I speak how I speak now today because of it. Um, so coming back to, I guess, yeah, where I wanted to be, my passions, and at the time also tech was all over in the news, and I was reading all these people fundraising money, doing these things, and this trend of working remotely sort of happening. This was around 2015, 14, 13. I was like, yeah, I wanna be a tech and computer science or web development. And I want to work remotely. It was scary. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. To quit my job, it was scary. And I had the support of my ex girlfriend at the time. My parents didn't understand, um, and so I quit. I quit 6 months before getting my CA, resigned, and I went straight into this coding bootcamp. Moved cities and did that for I think it was 8 weeks, something like that. And it was amazing. I loved it. I loved it. My plan was like, okay, I'm quitting because my worst case scenario. Or excuse me, my best case scenario. Like I guess I actually go and build stuff, and I get to do it, and start my own business maybe, or build apps that I want to build, right? And then get a job being a developer, and then hopefully go into remote. And if not, then not get a remote. And if not, I can always go back doing to what I'm doing, which was accounting and auditing, right? Get into that industry. Um, so that's like, okay. So the absolute worst case scenario is I go back doing to what I was doing. Uh, whereas absolute best scenario, well, I guess we'll be talking about that because I never thought it would turn out as it would, but it did and has. Um, and and so I yeah graduated from that coding bootcamp, and during that bootcamp, I now met my business partner, I guess ex business partner, with whom we started this business in New Zealand for the next 10 years. Um, and basically, I had millions of ideas. I was like, we should do this, we should do that, launch this idea, like connecting tradies with homeowners, go into real estate, do this agent finder idea. And I'm sure there's been a few other ones. And my business partner had this one idea. He's from UK, which is a comparison site in New Zealand. And basically, at that time, nothing like that existed that had everything. There was only like power comparison. And so in New Zealand, it was far behind after UK, Australia, US. And I was like, okay, you know, starting from zero seems like this worked. Let's do that one. Why not? So I prototyped the thing in like a month, and it took us another like few months to actually launch it. So that was like September 2015, and we launched it officially in January 2016. So making the website was the easy part because you make it and then you're like, huh, here it is. But then you quickly realize you need to have commercials, and then you need to have people going to your website, and basically you have to figure that out. And of course, I have no marketing, no sales, nothing background, and I just learned coding. Right, all I knew how to do is how to check financial statements and your bookkeeping. And so, also around that time, September 2015, my dream was always to well, it was always my dream was to become an Olympian when I was younger. That's why I was part of the Russian Olympic training with the Olympic team with the senior Olympic coach, and that was for like 6 7 years of my life. And I want to be an Olympian. It didn't happen due to surgeries, a few other internal reasons. But 2016 Olympics was coming up in Rio de Janeiro, and I always want to go to Brazil too. So around September 2015, I started looking around for tickets. I don't know why. It just happened. I just stumbled on this ad on Facebook that they're looking for volunteers, and I applied. Right. Woo, come back. I applied, and the application was like, "What can you do?" I was like, "Oh, maybe I can do this juggling, this thing. I couldn't do anything." But I was like, this, and they're like, "Can you speak Portuguese?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll learn it by this time." Anyways, couldn't speak any. I forgot about that. Forgot about all about that application. Till like a few months later, around after we just launched our business into the wild, I checked my spam box since February 2016, and I there it is. I've been accepted to go to the Olympics. Um, I was like, and I have until tomorrow, one day to decide, right? So I'm stressing out. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And yeah, I remember talking to my business partner, and I was like, uh, yeah, take it, go for it. And so I did. I accepted, and I had to figure out because don't one thing I guess I'm forgetting to mention is that when I did quit my job, I had like 20 grand of savings, and I was living on $250 a week at the time. That included my rent, my food, my gym, one cup of coffee a week, maybe two if I'm frugal. It was a great time. I didn't. I was 24 at the time. I didn't feel scarce. In fact, I feel great. I remember building myself a bicycle from scrap yards for 20 bucks. That was my favorite bicycle until it got stolen because my business partner didn't tie it up um, to post. So yeah, don't give things to other people that you value. But um, I sidetrack, and so I accepted this offer to go to the Olympics. And I had to figure out how to get money. where I'm gonna stay, where I'm gonna live, because it's not cheap, right? To fly from New Zealand to Brazil at the time, and then also to well, I was living off my savings, so I had a look, and I accepted this applied and accepted this job opportunity for $2,000. It was 2 weeks, and yeah, I applied and I got accepted, right? So I was like, oh, yes. So that paid for my flights. Yeah, I remember that paid for my flights, and then I had to also figure out where I'm gonna live, how I'm gonna live, and I don't remember exactly how, but I think I had $4,000 credit card, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use that. I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna max it out, live as frugally as I can. And I think maybe birthday count was coming out. My parents maybe gave me $1,000. I don't know. While all of this was happening, I was also building my business, learning about SEO, marketing, making relationships. We signed up our first client and slowly started. I remember like around March or February 2016, we had our first sign up. And I was like $100. And I was super, super cool. And I was driving in a car at the time, the first switch. Um, oh, yeah, so the business is it's a comparison, it's a marketplace. You move to New Zealand, you rent an apartment, you need internet, electricity, insurance, all these things. You enter your details, your name. I'll show you deals, and I collect them, and then I get referral fee from the companies, right? So that was just the business model. It's still the business model 10 years later, but also now we sell the leads as well to other partners that we work with because we have too many. So it's best for them to service it. So yeah, so then I went to Brazil for 3 months to Rio de Janeiro. And I volunteered at the Olympics. I was at the opening ceremony. It was always my dream, and I was right there with all the athletes and having fun, dancing, meeting all the local teams that came from Russia, New Zealand, and which other ones? But yeah, I got to meet Russia and New Zealand as people walking around showing. I'm on the rooftop of my apartment building, so if I lose my track of thoughts, it's because of that. Um, so the 3 months flew by. I definitely maxed out on my credit cards, met amazing people, and came home broke. Back to my full of experience, full of adventure, but broke. Back to my parents' place in New Zealand, where I was licking my wounds and getting back my money. Essentially, the $200 a week, um, which yeah, helped me a lot, and I'm grateful for that. And I was starting to get a bit desperate. I started to look for jobs, but then a few months later, started making more money, enough to equal the minimum wage of New Zealand, which was like at the time $500 a week. So I went up from 250 to $500 a week, and I was like, yes, this is it. And for some strange reason, I saw this post about Bali, and this whole digital nomad trend, remote work. No, that's actually before COVID, so that's like 2016, right? End of 2016. It's like, oh, Bali. Bali seems like a place to hang out with like-minded people, and so why not? So I started talking to my business partner about it. I almost moved back to Wellington and hired an office there to grow the business, but I was like, then the earthquake happened there, and so that fell through. Um, and so I was like, we should go to Bali. And one thing led to another. January 2017, off we went. I went for 4 months. My business partner went for 2 months, and yeah. And I remember arriving, and I was like, Canggu. For those who know, you know, there's nothing there. Now it's a bit crazy. It's different, right? I mean, this building here, and this is in Canggu. That didn't exist, and so yeah. First day soaked in the rain because I didn't realize there's a rain season here. I thought it was gonna be sunshine and rainbows all the time. No, it was cool. I felt free. I felt like my dollar could go further. And it could. Like all of a sudden, I was living on $250 a week still, like in New Zealand, but now I could afford my own place, scooter, gym, like all these things, and save the 250. So and go out. There's things happening which I didn't feel like were happening in New Zealand at the time. I was 25. 25? Yeah, 25. Um, and while I was in Bali, this girl from Brazil came to see me. We almost met in Brazil, but then she was traveling in New Zealand at the time, and so we met there. And I was like, she worked for an airline. I was like, come to Bali, let's hang out, and she did. And that sort of started the period of my let's just say toxic relationship, right? And so yeah, so like while all of that is happening, of course, I'm still building my business, learning deeper into SEO, marketing, advertising, getting relationships, uh, launching other verticals, expanding it, right? Having that first mover advantage into the market, getting exposure in the media, news, all this other stuff. Um, so after the 4 months in Bali, um, I went back to New Zealand because my business partner wanted me to be on the same time zone, and I listened, and I was like, didn't feel right. I want to stay in Bali, and yet I went against that. I went against my own intuition. Came to New Zealand, I felt miserable. It was winter, it's cold. I was talking to this the Brazilian girl, and we're sort of having this long distance relationship. And we agree. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'll go to Brazil again, to your city, Manaus, which is in the jungle, and spend time with you for a few months, and then we go to New Zealand. We move, whatever. I had a vision that we go both work remotely, travel the world, move somewhere else, like Bali, New Zealand, doesn't matter. So I fly to Brazil, and I spent a few months in Manaus. And I remember early on, my intuition was like telling me this is not it. This relationship is not it. But I was like, no. I said I'll do it. A man of my word, and I'm gonna see this through. And I guess I did. Yeah, I guess I did. So the relationship was a roller coaster, right? High highs, lower lows. Uh, you could say maybe chaotic a little bit. Um, a lot of push and pull. This kind of dynamic, and I thought it was normal. It didn't feel normal, but I guess I thought that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, maybe that's something I grew up with. Who knows? Well, I know. So, and so, yeah, I didn't enjoy my time there in Brazil. I did enjoy the jungle, the Manaus, not so much, but going to the jungle, that was nice. That was super nice, right? And and then we left, and I went to Colombia for a bit, then Miami, and then we met in Spain together. That was the plan. Spent some time in Spain. The relationship dynamic continued happening as it has. Uh, and then we went to India. That's where she did her yoga teacher training. And that's when I started experimenting more with different guess you could say substances, right? That's where the journey began. 2017, 2000, December 2017, no, January to 2018. After India, we moved back to New Zealand, rented a place, and yeah, started building a life there. But this relationship continued being this up and down, this swing, this roller coaster. And so at one point, it just started like overtaking my life, right? Uh, and I remember I was like, I went to Russia at the time, and we were meant to go together, and she broke up with me. And I was like, okay, this is enough. I'm not getting back. I can stay at the place where we are. I'll continue paying, but uh, I'm spending 3 months. It was 3, 4 months in Russia at my grandma's place. She would look after me, but I need this emotional distance to let go, to separate. And it helped a lot. Uh, it really did. So then I came back to New Zealand. She tried to get back with me, but I said no. Uh, and so I feel like that's when my journey of figuring out what happened, how did this enter my life, how did this chapter happen? Because I believe it takes two to tango in a relationship. So how did that happen? And that sort of set me on a journey of understanding relationship, becoming a better man, um, healing myself, uh, but also didn't know what I was doing, right? So a lot of self medication and hanging out in groups that they were on the right path, but um, yeah, I it wasn't it, right? And with this whole thing of self medication, that's where I feel like this Pandora box or here opened up, and a lot of noises came out, a lot that basically what do you call it, flooded my system. And I didn't know that, right? I was disassociated from my emotions, from the world, due to the um, traumatic, just past relationship, childhood, all these things add up together. And as a coping mechanism, as a defensive mechanism, I had to build walls, right? And these walls kind of went down, voices came out, and it was very noisy here, very noisy. And so I didn't realize this like in the last few years that that's what happened, right? At the time, I didn't. And so after that, I did jump into this other relationship. All of this was like business is still growing, like he's still doing his thing, somehow, somewhat functioning there. Um, did jump into a few other relationships, but they didn't work out. I wasn't ready. Straight after this, I had to heal myself, but I made a mistake. Probably all been there, jumping to the next one, and so then COVID happened. And before COVID, I went and uh, lived in what do you call it, in Nevada, and also before that, I was in Bali for 4 months in Russia, and so yeah, I went back to New Zealand after my Bali and Russia trip, and oh wait, yeah, so I jumped into this relationship in Russia. Then when we spent time in Bali, it was nice, but then it went all downhill. And I went back to Russia again to try and mend this relationship, but that wasn't it. So it took time. Went back to Bali, then went back to New Zealand. Did van life for a few months. That was amazing. Um, Going for all the landscapes and spending time by myself. And then sold my van. I was planning to do Euro trip and go to all these other places. And COVID happened, right? And I was at my parents' house. That's where I spent next year and a half in New Zealand, and committed to being there. Still want to get out, but I met this amazing couple, Brazilian couple, and I lived with them. What was meant to be a few months, so I ended up living here with a year and a half. During that year and a half, I bought another van and I started exploring New Zealand, started making a lot of TikTok videos because that was the trend, and I was enjoying it a lot. I was actually getting good at it to the point that my videos get hundreds of thousands of views. People on the streets in New Zealand were recognizing me, approaching me. I'm like, "Oh, you're this guy." I was like, "Oh, it's cool, right?" So and then more lockdowns started happening. In fact, I even went to Australia, got stuck there for a month, came back in New Zealand, got stuck there again. I was like, okay, enough. So I started to look at the ways to get out, and so for some whatever I don't know, for whatever reason, Mexico showed up. Mexico, and I don't know. This is the only country I guess that was open. I don't remember how. There a lot of digital nomads there, people, business people I know. So conjured this plan to get out of New Zealand. Um, Renewed my license, bought a flight. Um, the whole city of Auckland was in lockdown, so I just take my move to another city. That's where I did all my documentation, met my business partner there, and then I was like, okay, I'm leaving. Left New Zealand because they made laws that it's very hard to get back and it'll cost you $5,000 to $10,000, right? So I never knew when I would come back and how long this thing would go for. Bought my flight to US, and that was when I was, I think, 30. Um, yeah, right after a few months, I turned, yeah, a few months after I turned 30. And that next chapter was I was done with New Zealand. I wanted to find a new home, basically, where new base. So I went to US. My friend greeted me. We did an amazing road trip. An amazing road trip to from Los Angeles to San Diego to Denver, Colorado, Grand Canyon, this whole thing. Uh, Fueled with a lot of sightseeing and partying, of course. Then I flew to Mexico, where I didn't expect I would spend this long, and which is totally 1 year, and become a permanent resident. So residente permanente. But it did happen, and it was an amazing time. It was a really amazing time. I mean, during COVID, my business suffered a lot as well, and the reason being is turns out my business. So my business was going up, up, up. Then COVID happened. Turns out, in migration for these switches and comparisons to happen, right? But with no new migration, that wouldn't happen. So there was an internal switch, and so the business went flat. And then it took some time to recover, like almost 2 years, for it to start to going slightly up because there was no new migration into New Zealand. Um, Also around during all this time, I was like switched off from the business. I wasn't enjoying it as much. It just wasn't there. But what I'm realizing now, the issue wasn't the business. The issue was inside of me during all this time, which I'm sort of briefly mentioned that all these voices were coming up. Not good enough. Imposter syndrome. Um, Shame, basically toxic shame, which I know now, but I didn't know back then. And so in Mexico, I enjoyed myself a lot. I wanted to get good with dating, and I did with the help of my friend. Uh, Used to be something scary. Now it's something I enjoy. Uh, Even approaching strangers on the street, it's no longer an issue. Um, and that's a journey of its own, which probably requires its own, not probably requires its own video, right? Um, and around the same time, I joined this business community that was recommended to me by Derek Sivers. I got lucky and I met him in New Zealand. And in that business community, I started meeting other business people that are working remotely and doing cool things. Some of those people I met and we now work together. And they shifted my perspective on the business, on the mindset. And I started to enjoy the business once again. Um, I didn't feel alone um, on that journey, I guess would be the right way to put it. And so the critical moment was a few months after that when my business made a loss. I was like, okay, have to get it all together, get it back up. And that was the pivoting moment for me, at least. I can't talk for my business partner. And over the years, we accumulated a lot of stuff in Philippines and all the workers there, and no systems in place. And the systems that I built, which were lean and optimized to perform that on a better margins, were out of the window. And when things were going well, we were growing a lot. It was very easy to not see the profit decaying or being masked by good times, right? And then I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like, I have all these people, yet I'm working the same hours. What is going on? And would I want to hang out with these people in real life? And some of them would know. So it's like, okay, I have to do drastic measures and cut them. Otherwise, the business will go down as well. So that's what I started doing. I started heavily firing or letting go of a lot of people. So we had like 25 at the time. We went down all the way down uh, to key like five, let's say. And then I started rebuilding it. Started going back to the basics, how I built the business, why things were working. Some sort of things were missed, and I didn't realize that until later. And that's all because I was switched off. I was like, I thought had all these people, things should run nicely. That's not the case. Turns out at all. And so this process of restructuring me, doing things started over the next 1 to 2 years. While all of that was happening, I was still traveling. I was living in Mexico. I went to Portugal for 3 months. I did a Euro trip through all these countries. And it was an amazing time with my friends. Met this beautiful Venezuelan girl, and she stole a piece of my heart. And I was still like really good terms. But around the same time, I also started doing therapy. Found this man who's in his 60s, recommended by my roommate in Mexico. And this process of figuring these voices and healing anxiety out started. I was super anxious, very, very anxious. Like even booking a flight caused anxiety, right? Or like super simple things like that. 1 hour trip somewhere. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. So I've been working with him for like, so it's 31, 34 now. It's been 3 years, right? Started intensely, every week, every week. Now every other week. But I'm proud to say that I'm no longer anxious or as anxious as I was. It's very, very rare on the big things, like my business partner suing me last year, for example, or trying to with lawyer letters. That caused a lot of anxiety because it's new. It felt like personal attack. We'll get to that. And so, yeah, the journey from 31 to 34 was a lot of internal work, it's sort of healing, self reflection, reading books, talking about emotion, anxieties, things that happened to me in the past, and trying to make sense of it all. It was about building up my voice, the power of saying no and speaking up and standing up for myself because that's been taken away from me. It's been difficult to do that. Now it's not. Not every time, but let's say 80% of the time it's not. The other way before it was 20%, right? So dating, no fear, very rarely. Uh, Connection to my emotions, disassociation. Feel like significantly more connected to my emotions. It's still an ongoing process, but I'm really proud of myself and excited to continue on it because I can see the benefits that are happening this year when having the crisscross. Um, and while all this was happening, I was also rebuilding the business with the help of my business partner and making changes that, in fact, we had the best year last year, right? Profit wise. Things started to break down. They started to break down 2 years ago. My business partner, I remember I was in Mexico, canceled our key client without talking to me. It was an ego driven decision. And at the time, I still didn't have the power to speak out clearly and sue him. Let's just put it this way, because hindsight, that's what needed to be done. I sent a lawyer letter and at the same time put proper agreements in place. It's a lesson. I did try to put agreements in place, but I also made a mistake. Another lesson. So he did that, and he said he'll bring them back. 2 years later, that hasn't happened. Around the same time, I invited him to launch these two other websites, which he wasn't interested in. He was also not interested in the business. I could feel it internal. This was going on for a few years. And so I launched them. And fast forward 12 months, those websites start working. And the business is operating better, making more money, signing new agreements. Uh, and I was like, hey, these websites are working. I want to, because I built them, maintain them. I want to start making money from them. I'm going to still own them, but we're going to split their revenue 50-50, which I thought was a fair deal and goes to the business. The other goes to me because I have to maintain the websites. He disagreed. To which I was like, okay, well, you said you're going to bring back this key client. And so then the fights sort of started happening, started heating up. Ego started to be involved. And I made a mistake of deciding to buy these websites. It was also part of the plan, but to buy them, bring them into the business, and get over with this fight that we're having. Simply on the fact there was also a bit of a emotion involved because since he can do what he wants to do, I can do the same. Like canceling a key client, there should be no issue with me buying the websites. Turns out I was wrong. The moment I do that, the following day I get lawyer letters, threats of court, and things like that. And so I reversed the decision and bring back all the. I was like, okay, fine. I wasn't as chill like this, telling it now, but I was like, okay, that's fine. Here it is, reversed, and then that's whole start of this 12-month process that we are coming to right now. And my lawyer, I had a lawyer. And he started getting involved. I was like, okay, write this to him. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. You better find someone else. Luckily, I did. Let's negotiate a mediator. And he started doing a really good job and putting breaks, boundaries on those guys because they were trying to push me into like with threats of court to buy at ridiculous valuation. And I was like, didn't know how to deal with it. He did. So he brought their valuation down to what was felt reasonable within 4 months. They proposed a price. I said, sure, I'll buy at this price. This is the conditions, which would be a settlement at 4 months. which is very fast when you buy a business. They reject it. Um, that was November 2024, and I was like, okay, fine. Then the story continued. They tried to force me to sell the business again. I was like, no, the business is not performing, and let's continue. To fast forward a few more months, where the clients that my business partner said he would bring back, they didn't come back. The business tanked even more to a loss, and a few other things in place that a few weeks ago we finally like, okay, let's list this thing for sale, right? Get this agreement, sign these shotgun agreement, which means like to get out of this buy or sell agreement. Shotgun is basically I give you an offer that I'm willing to buy or sell at, which makes it fair for everyone. And now I felt relief in my chest, in my body. I was like, okay, we are we're moving somewhere. So only a week ago, I get an email from a business partner, almost blackmailing me, saying I'm not going to sign this unless you meet these conditions because you tanking the business value down. To which I laughed at, considering exactly 12 months ago we did have a valuation come in, and I was like, "Do you want to buy?" Do you want to sell at this price? He said, "No." "Do you want to buy me at this price?" He's like, "No." And I was like, because I was willing to sell it at a price, and I was like, "Well, how are we gonna uh, operate going forward?" And I obviously tried to buy him out. They pulled out, and now I get an offer from him to buy him out for even less. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm actually lucky and glad I didn't buy for what it was in November last year, because I would be stuck in this position. Maybe not, but most likely yes. And with the business declining, so now I have a few things to think about and make a decision on the offers that he proposed. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Time will tell. So that brings me to this present moment. There's a lot happened in the last 10 years, and I tried to squeeze it as much as I could. Not probably, I definitely missed a lot of key details. But this 10 years has been a lot of growth from business, from financial, from emotional stage, from dating, and from understanding myself. The last 3 years have been very influential for me with therapy work and coaching and emotional work that I've done, where I feel this is a transition, and it's a big one. And I notice in my life, every 5 to 10 years, there's something happens. Maybe the big ones is every 10 years, because right now we're coming to this 10-year transition where 10 years ago I quit my job and started this big period, and then and then 5 years after I quit, I left New Zealand, and like small chapters and stages to what happens. And so I am not sure what this next stage will be. I have a sense, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for a living. I know the direction, I feel the direction where I want to go, which is in health, fitness, and emotional work, and reconnecting with myself. That, that I will continue doing. Same with investing, building wealth. But the vehicle for it, I don't know yet what it is. And it's difficult to say with that unknown uncertainty, right? Because society It's like, yeah, you have to figure these things out, do this, get a job, have a plan. Um, and yeah, I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm certain it will come. And this is part of what I'm trying to do. This video is part of that, actually, me documenting that. Because one thing I wish I've done, and I sort of did it, but I didn't stay consistent to this. 10 years ago, I quit. I started documenting the journey. Imagine how spectacular it would be to look at all the stories and videos and things that I would have documented had I done so. So this is me doing it now as well. And so I guess, yeah, 10 years have flown by, and it took a very long journey to get here. And it's only just the beginning. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for listening. I wish you well. I love you. Person listening, watching this, and I love me too. Ciao.